It is after 5:45, so I will call to order the April 2nd, 2026 regular meeting of the Hendersonville City Council. We open our meetings with a silent invocation for people to pray or meditate as they choose, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would rise, please. Thank you. If you'll join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. All right. We start out with general public comment, and we have 4 people signed up in person to speak. Is there anyone online seeking recognition to also speak during public comment?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay. We allow for about 15 minutes, so if people could limit their comments to about 3 minutes apiece, that would be appreciated. And when I call your name, if you'll come to the microphone and give your name and address for the clerk's record. First of all, Michelle Cunningham.
Oh, cool. All right. So I come to you today on behalf of Hands-On Children's Museum. I speak to you today as a teacher, a mom, crying, and an employee. So I have been a teacher for close to 30 years, and what we have on Main Street is amazing. The opportunity for kids from all over the county to come and bring that in and express their creativity and set down a device, it extends from the littlest bits. When I bring classes there, I have a party there. There are middle school kids having a good time in the grocery store and their phones are away. I started going there when my son was little. He is 16 now, and he and his friends will walk up and down Main Street, and inevitably they'll wander into the People's Museum, which is what I wanted to speak to you most about today. The People's Museum causes 16-year-old children to get together and have conversations about our history and our future and where things are going. I left my first page of notes, but of the 9 exhibits in there, 7 of 9 directly relate to something I had to teach this year in 2nd grade. Everything on that wall relates to 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th civics. All of those have standards that are addressed by the People's Museum. 2 civics classes, 2 government classes for high school level are addressed by the People's Museum. There is something in there for everyone. 1/3 of the wall space is covered by Cherokee information and Cherokee first-person experiences, primary sources, and actual realia. I've had the opportunity of taking 64 children to Cherokee, and it is far more convenient and accessible to children and their families to be able to go to that Hands-On Children's Museum and view that the exhibits there. I'm going to skip quite ahead. During Helene, the museum had to step up and be a service center for the whole community, and all of our experiences came together to provide for the basic necessities. They saw leadership just not on the walls, but within their community. And I do foresee that in the future, there will be an exhibit on the wall for Helene as we had this leadership in our community. And what I want to say is that the People's Museum represents people that we have seemingly ordinary people doing and accomplishing the extraordinary. And for the little kids in my classroom, they see their community, they see their neighbors, their pastors, the guy at the library, the lady who works with grandma at the assisted living facility. And I want that to continue, not just for my little bits, but for the children who come behind them. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Cunningham. All right. Next, Sarah Cosgrove.
Hey there, Sarah Cosgrove, 203 Davis Mountain Road. I'm actually in Laurel Park, 28739. Madam Mayor and City Council women, I'm happy to say that. Thank you all for your service, commitment, and thoughtful leadership in our city. I'm so proud to live, work, serve, support, and most importantly, raise my 4 children here under your leadership. I'm here tonight as a member of the Executive Board of the Hands-On Children's Museum and founding advisory board member of the People's Museum, including the Henderson County Walk of Fame. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of those organizations and the continued partnership with the City of Hendersonville. Last time I was here on this topic was January 7th, 2021, a heavy day. And our city made the decision to support the mission of the People's Museum to highlight the history of all citizens in our county. Since that time, the People's Museum has offered not only free admission and hosted programs and story times, but resources for learning the history of our citizens in Henderson County, many of whom still have family here. After Hurricane Helene, as Michelle mentioned, the People's Museum became a different type of resource for families and children, providing essential tangible needs for all of our citizens and community. In fact, my own sister drove up from Auburn, Alabama, and she and I and my daughter unloaded a trailer with museum staff, and Congressman Edwards stopped in that night and thanked us for continuing to show support for the kids of the community and the ability to keep the doors open and still keep kids supported during that time. Our state legislature doesn't have an approved budget. I'm not here to judge that, only to point out that this affects funding and educational opportunities and development and programs, which ultimately affects our kids. Free admission to the People's Museum and Walk of Fame through partnership with the City of Hendersonville helps us leverage support for our Access for All program, which provides reduced or free entry for low-income families. This program saw an increase in 2025, no doubt due to Helene, for hands-on, which shows our local kids and families and tourists are looking to learn about the museum and visit our People's Museum and Walk of Fame, the only one of its kind in our county. I'd like to think we can agree on kids and that they deserve the continued resources of our local history through the experience of the People's Museum and the Walk of Fame. Thank you for considering a continued partnership with special appropriations funds where our city has the opportunity to thoughtfully provide educational opportunities for all kids and citizens.
Thank you, Ms. Cosgrove. Brian Lane.
Hi, my name is Brian Lane, 47 Forest Edge Drive, Hendersonville, North Carolina, 28792. I'm looking at the core values of the city of Hendersonville. One of them says that it believes it must pursue and provide opportunity for responsible growth. I look around as I drive around Hendersonville, and growth is exploding everywhere. All our beautiful green areas are being taken over by these developments that are coming out of the ground and destroying our communities. But I don't see any schools being built. I don't see anyone thinking about the future of our children. Our schools are already full. And all these developments, while they may be bringing tax money into the community, they're also going to be taxing our schools. They're going to be overloading the schools with children, and they're going to turn our schools into Florida schools. Our children won't be educated. And I want to know what's going to be done about that. Are we going to keep cramming kids into schools? Are we going to start building portables in these schools that are already overloaded? And what kind of education are we going to be giving our children? Where's the thought about that? What kind of education are our children, and what kind of future are we building for our children? You know, I understand we want to develop, but we also need to think about that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. Is it Jana Lewis? Yeah. Jana Lewis? Not signed in. 812 South Wooded Street? Over. No? Okay. All right, well then that closes our public comment. And move on to consideration of the agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to have added to or removed from this evening's agenda as presented?
Madam Mayor, I move that City Council approve the agenda as presented.
Okay. Is there, I think there was one item. One item.
I would like to remove, please, item E under the consent agenda. Sorry.
Okay. Is there anything else anyone would like to have added to or removed from the agenda? If not, those wishing to approve the agenda as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, and we have our agenda. Consent agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to have moved from the consent agenda to the regular agenda so it can be discussed? Or if not, a motion to approve.
Madam Mayor, I move that City Council approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion? Not. Those in favor of approving this consent agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it. Okay, we've got that. We have a bunch of proclamations this evening to start with, and then some other presentations. So, got the first one. Who is going to be? First is proclamation for National Police Week.
I think the chief's going to handle, he's going to probably have to handle both of them, I think. So we got Police Week and telecommunications.
Yes. You want me to read them, or?
No.
I can stay in there.
Just stand there and look pretty.
I can stay in there with the best of them.
All right. Pull this up here. Okay. First one is, I think this will pick it up, but is this proclamation is to recognize National Police Week 2026 and to honor the service of all law enforcement officers and the sacrifices of the men and women killed in the line of duty in 2025 while guarding our communities and defending our democracy. Whereas Mayor Volk and City Council for Hendersonville, North Carolina salute the men and women who do the difficult and dangerous work of safeguarding our communities. Police officers around the nation understand the tremendous responsibility bestowed upon them in protecting the freedom and liberty of all citizens. And whereas the men and women of the Hendersonville Police Department are dedicated to protecting all city residents and visitors with respect and dignity against deception, violence, and disorder. And whereas the residents and visitors of the city of Hendersonville recognize the dangers of the law enforcement profession and understand the difficulties in performing the duties and responsibilities of a law enforcement officer. And whereas more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serve communities across the United States, including the 47 sworn police officers of the Hendersonville Police Department. And whereas, while officers are ever vigilant, 113 police officers died in the line of duty in 2025, amounting to over 27,000 line of duty deaths since the first death was recorded in 1786. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Volk, and the City Council for the City of Hendersonville, North Carolina, call upon all people to observe May 10th, 2026 to May 16th, 2026 as National Police Week and show support to the law enforcement officers who devote themselves to delivering exceptional service to this community and in communities across this great nation. There you go. That is the first one. And we also have National Public Safety Telecommuters Week. This proclamation is to recognize National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week 2026 to honor the service, commitment, and sacrifice of over 100,000 public safety telecommunicators in the United States. These individuals are often the first point of contact for citizens in emergencies, providing a critical, calming voice during crises. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Hendersonville Police Department 911 Communication Center. And whereas the public safety telecommunicator is the first and most crucial contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas the public safety telecommunicator is the single vital link for our police officers by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas the public safety telecommunicators of the Hendersonville Police Department 911 Communication Center have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Volk, and the City Council for Hendersonville, North Carolina, call upon all people to observe April 12th to April 18th, 2026, as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Hendersonville, in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. There we go.
Thank you so much.
So, would you like to say something?
Well, yes, so Madam Mayor, thank you, council, thank you so much for the support. And to the public, law enforcement and dispatch to our telecommunicators, sometimes it can feel like it's a thankless job, right? Because we don't always make everybody happy with the things that we do, but the support that we get in Hendersonville is tremendous. It's maybe not the same in other places, so we very much appreciate. This is just an outward example that I can show staff that you appreciate them and recognize the hard work that they do. So thank you for recognizing them, and I will be happy to share this with staff
Okay.
when we get back.
Thank you. We appreciate the work they do. All right. Thank you. Okay, now we have a proclamation for Housing Month. And Angie, you going to accept this, or who else? Since you've been, well,
Invite Lou to come up.
Sam and Lou.
Don, you want to come up too?
all the people that have been working on this. Right. Whereas the City of Hendersonville recognizes that access to safe, stable, and affordable housing is a fundamental need for all residents and a cornerstone of a thriving and sustainable community. And whereas the City of Hendersonville has demonstrated a long-standing commitment to addressing housing challenges through strategic planning, community engagement, and partnerships. And whereas the city has actively pursued funding and partnerships to support affordable housing, including the acceptance of a $750,000 CDBG grant in 2021 for the rehabilitation of homes in the Ash Street neighborhood, the acceptance of $1,312,710, and the allocation of $800,000 to the Apple Ridge project being developed by Housing Assistance Corporation in 2022 to support affordable housing development. And whereas the city has engaged in extensive community outreach and collaboration including hosting a housing summit on May 16, 2024, with over 200 attendees and conducting listening sessions with diverse community groups, such as the business community, elderly and veterans, African American community, nonprofit organizations, and the Hispanic Latinx community to ensure that housing solutions reflect the needs and values of all residents. And whereas the City of Hendersonville has prioritized the development of a strategic housing plan supported by a $100,000 grant from the Dogwood Health Trust and informed by a comprehensive housing needs assessment completed by the Development Finance Initiative in 2024, which identified a critical need for 2,200 affordable housing units within the city to meet the demands of low to moderate income households. And whereas the strategic housing plan outlines key objectives to address housing challenges, including increasing opportunities for home ownership, prioritizing permanently affordable housing for households earning up to 80% of the area median income, integrating housing solutions into neighborhoods to preserve community character, and supporting residents' ability to age in place. And whereas the city recognizes the importance of reducing barriers to housing supply, preserving and improving the quality of existing affordable housing stock, and fostering partnerships with businesses, nonprofits, local governments, and other stakeholders to ensure that housing costs do not exceed 30% of household income. And whereas the City of Hendersonville acknowledges the significant impact of Hurricane Helene in 2024, which exacerbated housing challenges by damaging housing stock, particularly in low-income neighborhoods, and further underscored the need for resilient housing solutions. And whereas the City Council and Strategic Plan Steering Committee have worked diligently to explore innovative solutions, including the Community Land Trust model, zoning text amendments, and mixed income housing developments to address the housing needs of current and future residents. Now, therefore, I, Barbara Revolt, Mayor of the City of Hendersonville, do hereby proclaim May 2026 as Housing Month in the City of Hendersonville. Be it further proclaimed that during this month, the City of Hendersonville encourages all residents, businesses, and community organizations to join in recognizing the importance of affordable housing, supporting ongoing housing initiatives, and working together to create a community where everyone has a safe, stable, and affordable place to call home. Right. Who all you're sharing that? Who all wants to make comments?
Just briefly. So I just want to say that during May, during Housing Month, we do have things planned. Information will be coming out very soon. But chief among them is May of 2024, we had the first Housing Summit. May of 2026, we're going to have another one, and we're going to celebrate all the things that the city and city council have been doing to support housing in our community, including things like unveiling the final strategic housing plan, and we are working on a housing video and all sorts of other things that will be unveiled at that summit. So May 27th, that is the normal second meeting date for City Council, May 27th at 5:30 to 7 at Hendersonville High School. So watch for Allison and Brandy's announcements and everything about everything that'll be going on during May. And I do want to seriously thank Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and City Council for everything that you've done to support. There's been very few things that we've come forward and asked for that you haven't supported us in, and then gone further than even what we've asked for, and we really appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nope. Perfect. Okay.
Sorry, it was so long.
All right. Okay, now we have the right thing here. Okay, Environmental Sustainability Board, Sustainability Hero. Okay.
Hello, my name is Emily Davidson, and I have the privilege of serving as the chair of the city's Environmental Sustainability Board. I'm here tonight on behalf of our board to present the 4th annual Hendersonville Sustainability Hero Award. Since sustainability is one of the city's core values, we feel that it is important that each year we honor a city employee or team that has been a champion for change and responsible for the development and implementation of sustainable practices in Hendersonville. This year's awardee received not just 1, but 2 independent nominations for the Sustainability Hero Award, which speaks to the scope of his impact on our community. In his work life, he works to ensure that Hendersonville is a city where sustainability and community growth go hand in hand. He has been a champion for thoughtful land use policies that support a more sustainable future for our city. In particular, he played a key role in advocating for zoning text amendments that allow for more diverse and compact housing options. These changes help Hendersonville grow responsibly by allowing more homes to be built within existing neighborhoods and infrastructure. The result is a more efficient use of land, reduced pressure for sprawl into rural areas, and the strengthening of the city's tax base without requiring costly expansion of infrastructure. Beyond his 9-to-5 as a planning manager for the city, he's attended community events and meetings around walkability and bikeability, and incorporated citizens' concerns and feedback into making our city more walkable and bikeable for all. In his personal life, this year's awardee also exemplifies sustainability, practicing the principles he advocates for in the community. He's a dedicated cyclist who frequently uses his e-bike for commuting, and someone who lovingly renovates and restores using materials that would have otherwise gone to waste. It is my great pleasure to introduce the 4th Annual Sustainability Hero Award to Matt Manley. All right, thank you, everyone. And the Environmental Sustainability Board would also like to extend an invitation to everyone for this year's 4th Annual Hendo Earth Fest on Saturday, April 18th. We hope to see you there. Thank you.
Okay.
What an honor. Wow. Was not expecting that. It is humbling, and I really appreciate it. I don't know what to say other than, my efforts that go into my job I'm very fortunate because a lot of it just comes very natural to me. I feel as my job as a planner and with specific focus on things that relate to sustainability is a calling, and so it's really an honor to be able to have a job that doesn't feel like a job, that just where you go out and do the type of work that is fulfilling to you. And so to be acknowledged for this and to do something that comes naturally is really great. So I really appreciate it. Thanks for everybody. And you guys, when my family showed up, I was like, what? Something's up here. So, thank you guys for being here.
Why don't we get a picture with Emily and Matt and his family with the award? Why don't we do that? And if that's okay. So family. So yeah. Well, at least part of the family.
Okay. Congratulations. No. Okay, and our final presentation is on the Hands-On Children's Museum. Joseph Knight.
Well, good afternoon, Hendersonville City Council members. My name is Joseph Knight, and I have the great privilege of serving as the Executive Director of Hands-On Children's Museum and a resident of this fine city. In 2021, the Hendersonville City Council made a significant commitment to celebrate, promote, and honor the lived experiences of our citizens by unanimously agreeing to provide a 5-year financial investment to Hands-On Children's Museum to develop, maintain, and operate the People's Museum and Walk of Fame, a gallery located within the walls of Hands-On Children's Museum. Thanks to the generous support of the city, Hands-On successfully opened the People's Museum and Walk of Fame in 2022, and this unique educational and cultural resource has served thousands of children and adults throughout Henderson County and beyond. In fact, during the 2025 calendar year, over 58,000 people experienced the People's Museum and Hands-On Children's Museum. 40% of that were from the Hendersonville and Henderson County area. Since its inception in 2020 and opening in 2022, the People's Museum and Walk of Fame, a free community exhibition, has become a cherished and sacred part of our community. The museum celebrates the rich history and culture of the people of Hendersonville and Henderson County, helping both children and adults gain a deeper understanding of themselves and the cultural and historic significance of their community. Over the years, the People's Museum has evolved into a cherished gem within this community. Within the walls of this sacred space, our citizens can see their history and culture displayed in an honorable fashion. There have been so many instances when we've had adult visitors brought to tears by the exhibits we have in the People's Museum and Walk of Fame. They see their culture, their history reflected in a way that honors their family. Perhaps one of the most unexpected outcomes of this public-private partnership was the People's Museum and Walk of Fame transitioning into a free resource center that at one point operated 12 hours a day for 2 weeks straight during the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Helene. To see a space that was designed to celebrate the history and culture of our citizens transform into a place of refuge and support for our citizens during a time of crisis was profound. Many of the same families that would come to the museum to learn and play sought out Hands-On as a place of refuge during a very uncertain time. Many grandparents who would bring their grandchildren to the museum sought out the People's Museum as a resource to reconnect with their adult children and family members. Our response during this unprecedented time was recognized nationally last year by the Association of Science and Technology Centers, which awarded Hands-On the prestigious Roy L. Schaefer Leading Edge Award, one of the highest honors a museum can receive in the United States. This award and the impact we made would not have been possible without the steadfast support of the Hendersonville City Council. The public-private partnership between Hands-On and the city empowered us to act swiftly and effectively when our community needed us most. As Hands-On prepares to celebrate its 20th anniversary, we invite the city of Hendersonville to consider renewing its support of the People's Museum and Walk of Fame. For the past 5 years, the city has provided the museum $42,000 per year to support part of the cost of operating the People's Museum and Walk of Fame. Our request is for the city of Hendersonville to consider renewing this 5-year agreement, with annual funding being approved on the year-to-year basis as per our current executed grant, which ends at the conclusion of this current fiscal year. In addition to supporting the operating costs of the People's Museum, which are monthly lease payments, city funding is also used to leverage other funding sources to support the museum as a whole. For example, because of the city's past and ongoing annual support, through this strategic partnership, the museum was able to leverage new funds from other sources to provide free museum admission for the entire Children's Museum, in addition to the People's Museum, which is already free to the community as per our agreement. Our Access for All initiative provides free admission to over 6,000 people who receive SNAP and WIC nutritional benefits. This includes free field trip experiences for thousands of children in Henderson County Public Schools, as well as 5 other school districts throughout Western North Carolina. City funding to hands-on helps promote an overall confidence and credibility with other public and private funding sources, resulting in improved physical sustainability. The public-private partnership between hands-on and the city has been and continues to be a key component to our success as a world-class museum. This strategic investment of the city will make a lasting difference for Hands-On Children's Museum as we work every day to meet the needs of our city's most greatest asset, which is its children. On behalf of the Board of Directors, our staff, and our volunteers, I'd like to thank the City Council for their continued support over the past 5 years. I'd also like to thank the Council for your consideration of a renewal of a 5-year funding agreement for the People's Museum and Walk of Fame. We live in a world when many things are uncertain. Our children deserve to have a safe place to go that celebrates their culture and their history. And what we have in Hendersonville through the People's Museum is one of the only museum experiences in its kind in the great state of North Carolina. And it's because of the leadership of this council that we're able to make that dream a reality 5 years ago. So with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions from the City Council regarding our ask or Hands-On Children's Museum in general.
Any questions?
I didn't get a previous communication from you guys about this presentation, so I feel like I might be missing a little bit of information. So when we discussed this back in 2021, I think there were some financial uncertainties then because of visitors and revenues, and so this original $246,000, is that right?
Yes.
That was to kind of help float the museum through COVID. And then you guys were expanding into Unit 1, I believe, at that point. And so I guess I'm just trying to understand, I think you committed to us then that you thought that the visitors would increase within about 6 months and that the revenues would come back up so that you guys could be able to sustain your operations. Did that happen, or are you guys still needing additional funding to sustain operations? So that's my first question.
Yes. So what's needed from the City Council is renewal of the 5-year agreement for funding, because the funding that was committed from the city to the museum was designated to only support the cost of renting the part of our building that houses the People's Museum and the Walk of Fame. Funding from the city does not support any other operational needs of the museum. It's only to support the cost of having the space. Also, to that end, I want to make sure I'm very clear on this particular point. With the funding that we get from the city, that does not support all the other things that we do to operate the People's Museum and Walk of Fame, which is a free resource for the citizens of Hendersonville. For example, we offer programming, workshops, guest presenters. All that comes at an additional cost to the museum that we fundraise for, that we seek grants for to provide to the community. With the public-private partnership, the beauty of that being established in 2021 was there being a formalized commitment from the city for the museum to provide a service to the citizens of Hendersonville, in addition to us being able to leverage that partnership to seek out new opportunities for grants and corporate support, which has been significant for the museum.
I'm just trying to read back over some minutes from that meeting. And so are you guys trying to purchase additional property as well?
We are not.
So you're not expanding downstairs?
We purchased property 2 or 3 years ago for a future expansion of the museum, but it's not related to the People's Museum project specifically.
Okay. And so currently, you're not using the space that you purchased at all?
Currently, the space downstairs are office suites. So we rent those office suites to tenants, and we also use that space for storage of our exhibits and program supplies.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
Madam Mayor, if I may speak,
Yeah, certainly.
I believe in transparency. I am a tenant. My business is a tenant of Hands-On Museum. We have been there for 26 years. So any decision that is made tonight will not affect, what we decide will not affect me, okay, or him. We pay rent there at Hands-On Museum, but I want to be transparent to the public that my business, my pet cleaning service, has rented an office space there for 26 years.
And also to that end, we didn't acquire that source of support until we purchased the downstairs unit several years ago.
Any discussion? I guess personally, as I support hands-on, but I would rather see this discussion as part of our budget session rather than jumping into making a commitment now. It is a relatively major decision regard to, or in comparison to other nonprofits we work with. And I'd just like to have it all part of the full discussion.
I actually support that because that was actually our request in 2021, was that we kind of added that into our yearly nonprofit requests. I guess I'm just a little, I feel bad that $200,000 is a lot of money. And there are a lot of other nonprofits also that come to us every year for major projects too, you know, that feed and house and clothe children in our elderly community. And I just want to make sure that we're being fair and equitable to everybody that is requesting funding like this. It's a lot of money. And so I would feel better about having a process where everybody was competitively asking for, or given the opportunity to ask for projects as well.
And if I may speak to that, One of the unique things about this partnership was we had that very discussion in 2021, whether or not this would be part of the discretionary funding for the city, or if it would be outside of that. And after speaking with council members at that time, it was determined that because this project is a formalized public-private partnership that provides that direct service to citizens, and that direct service being two things. One, the creation of the People's Museum itself, but also taking the existing Henderson County Walk of Fame, bringing that inside of the museum, was the basis for having that structured outside of the discretionary funding for the full pool of nonprofits. And just one more thing I'd like to add, because all of this is connected with how the museum as a whole impacts the city. Now, our economic impact for the city of Hendersonville is close to $2 million. And a big part of that deals with us being such a significant draw for the city as it relates to tourism. So in addition to providing those services and experiences to the citizens of the city, because of the public-private partnership being formalized, that helps us significantly be able to do other things that also supports the city.
Okay, well, anyone else have anything to say?
No, I agree that we should make it a part of the larger budget discussion, just because it is part of a larger picture. I mean, I've been a big supporter of the museum for a long time, and I do see its necessity to stay a continued part of the community, but I would agree that we all need some time to get our ducks in a row and discuss it together.
All right, thank you.
So just
Appreciate it.
for clarity and direction, we will add this as a separate discussion associated with special appropriations at our budget meeting on Friday, May 1st. Just to be clear, there will be no public comment unless the mayor so directs, but that's typically a council workshop meeting. Obviously, it's open to the public, but just clarify that. So.
Yeah, our email addresses are all on the city's website, so, and we get lots of comments that way that we do take into consideration, so, okay.
Thank you all very much for your time.
Okay, public hearings, we have 3, 4 this evening. And the first one is a conditional rezoning, Laurel Meadows 8L LIHTC project. And Mr. Manley, you're going to present this one to us.
Thank you. Good evening to council, Madam Mayor. Thanks for letting me present. This is, as you mentioned, a LIHTC project that's been proposed down at the end of the cul-de-sac on Michelle Drive. It involves 2 parcels that total about 3 1/3 acres. The applicant is Wuda Cooper. You may recognize that name from the Hawkins Point development on 6th Avenue that came before council a few years ago. The current zoning is C3, highway business, and they are proposing urban residential, which is a CZD. And we'll get into some specifics, but it's 77 units. And of course, if you're over 50 units, that requires a conditional zoning. The neighborhood compatibility meeting was held back in February, somewhat lightly attended, but there were some really insightful, discussion and bits of information that were presented that helped to inform the process and the analysis and the proposal that you'll see from the applicant. Just going over the site real quickly, the first upper left is a view of the adjacent Outback restaurant over on the left, and the subject property is to the right, and that's Michelle Drive. The upper right picture is from the subject property looking north. You can see the I-26 eastbound on-ramp in the distance. At the bottom left, at the end of the cul-de-sac, you can see this is the access to the site. currently and where it is proposed to be. It's currently used as access to a city pump station, which I'll show you. It's at the south end of the subject property. If you look closely on the kind of right side of the drive, you can see some rocks. That's a wall above a culvert, which is running underneath this driveway. And if you follow the access through here, it curves off to the left. And if you look at the bottom right picture, you would follow that drive around. And at the very back of that drive, you can see the pump station there. Going back to that culvert and those rocks, the upper left photo is, if you're standing on the culvert, above the culvert, looking to the north, you can see the existing stormwater detention pond that is on the site. And it's kind of hard to get, but it's substantially lower than the vantage point of the photo. If you turn around 180 degrees and you're looking to the south, you see a creek that is daylighted, and that is where the stormwater flows to. That stormwater is really that whole property off of the cul-de-sac is flowing into that, and the Red Roof Inn, which is adjacent, their stormwater is coming into here as well. And so that's really the beginning of a stream right at that point. And the bottom left is a photo of Sarasota Lane, which is a it's open, it's cleared, but it's not paved. It's a right-of-way. It's listed as private right-of-way on the survey we received, but it does have public sewer in it, in portions of it. If you were to cross to the south, or kind of turn left on Sarasota Lane and face south, you would see these amenities that are at Camp Pinewood, just visible from Sarasota Lane there. To go over the site plan, I'll try to hit the highlights and keep it quick. I mentioned 77 units on 3.32 acres. That's 23.2 units per acre. There's a 27,500 square foot footprint for the building, and it's proposed to be a 4-story building. The anticipated trip generation, going over transportation items, 569 daily trips, 47 a.m. peak hour trips, 54 p.m. peak hour trips. All these numbers are below our standard threshold for requiring a TIA. The developer has proposed a condition to waive the TIA. The TIA is required for all urban residential conditional zoning districts, regardless of the amount of traffic generated. So want to acknowledge that it is below our typical threshold. Access to the property, I mentioned, is at the end of the cul-de-sac. It would solely come from Michelle Drive. Michelle Drive is an NCDOT street from the intersection of Orrs Camp Road up around until you get to this property. The property edge at the very north of the screen here. And there it transitions to a private right-of-way as you continue on around. At Orrs Camp Road, Michelle Drive terminates at a multi-pronged intersection, which is about 200 feet from Four Seasons Boulevard, US 64. That intersection includes Jack Street, Orrs Camp Road, and Michelle Drive, and a commercial access road. There are also several open curb cuts and back-out parking spaces in this area. And then also along the southern boundary, Sarasota Lane, I mentioned, is also present. The sidewalks, there's an existing 5-foot sidewalk that is running adjacent to Michelle Drive. The developer is proposing 2 conditions related to sidewalks. The first is requesting that 5-foot sidewalk remain as is and that it not be required to be expanded 2 feet. Another kind of unique standard that's only found in urban residential is that sidewalks have to be 7 feet wide as opposed to 5 feet wide, which is our citywide standard. And so they're requesting to not have to make that adjustment to the existing sidewalk, and also that the internal sidewalks be reduced. The sidewalks adjacent to parking spaces would be 6.5 feet, so half a foot short, and then the other sidewalks that provide pedestrian circulation through the site would only be 5 feet. In regards to parking, Our code requires 85 spaces for the 77 units based on the bedroom count. The North Carolina Housing Finance Agency, which awards the LIHTC credits, requires 135 spaces. The developer received a waiver from the Housing Finance Agency to reduce that number to 109. Another unique requirement under urban residential is that your minimum parking is also your maximum parking. So by code, we would say that 85 spaces is the most they could have. They're requesting a condition to have 109, which is less than the Housing Finance Agency would typically require, but because they received that waiver, they got it down. And that frees up some of the space on this site. Regarding natural resources, there's a stream buffer. There was a blue line stream indicated that runs through the site. The stream has been rerouted as the site has been graded, and stormwater detention pond was placed in the center 25 years ago or so. So the blue line that is there, it continues along the southeast border of the site, and it is what was shown in the picture. The developer is proposing a condition to allow what's an already existing small infringement into our 20-foot transition zone. So our stream buffer requirement is that the first 30 feet from the top of the bank be completely undisturbed, and then an additional 20 feet transition zone can be disturbed, but it cannot have any impervious surfaces permanently placed in it. We already have impervious surfaces cutting kind of a corner into that transition zone right here with the existing access road. So the condition is basically that they wouldn't expand that infringement, but they wouldn't be required to undo the existing impact that's already there. There is not a floodplain present on the site. The existing stormwater detention pond is proposed to be relocated and reestablished as an underground detention system under the parking area. Tree preservation, the site was cleared and graded when it was originally platted in the early 2000s. There's little to no mature vegetation on the site as a result of that. The tree canopy coverage map for the site for the most recent year shows it at 31,044 square feet of canopy. This exceeds the 30,000 square foot threshold that requires preservation standards, canopy preservation standards be met. And a condition was proposed by the developer at the planning board to waive these standards and has since been rescinded. And that was also a recommendation of the planning board. Vegetation in the existing stormwater detention pond on the site my understanding is that it's supposed to be maintained and cleared, and that's where a lot of this vegetation is. And so we're not 100% sure that it actually exceeds 30,000 square feet, but I just wanted to clarify there's no condition related to that, and whether it meets or doesn't meet our threshold will be determined at final site plan once they have received credits or not, or been approved for the project or not. For landscaping requirements, there are a substantial number, there's 114 new trees that have to be planted as shown, and 180 new shrubs. And so the ultimate result would be there'd be a net increase in plantings in the right place. The proposed elevations show a 4-story structure with a max height of 47 feet, 3.5 inches to the midpoint of the gable. It's got a hip roof, gable, and with some gable features. The first level and portions of the second level feature brick. The upper floors are fiber cement lap siding, and there are the 2-foot bump outs as required on the street-facing facades. I mentioned conditions. There are 8 developer proposed conditions. Staff is in agreement with all 8 of these. The one exception that the planning board had that's shown relates to item number 2. And so unless there's questions about the other ones, I'm just going to focus on that one. And this is a modified proposal that to clarify what the ask is that the developer put forth. And essentially, all those words under number 2 say what I've already said regarding the existing infringement into the 20-foot transition zone, but I will highlight that that access that's there now has to be maintained for the city to continue to access the pump station, but also that the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency has a requirement that you cannot use pervious surfaces for vehicular areas. And so that's one of their rules. So in acknowledging, the need for affordable housing, this is a major source of that, and they have their own set of rules so that we have to kind of consider when going through this. So those are the 8 developer proposed conditions. Again, staff supports those. There are 2 additional city proposed conditions that the developer has agreed to as well. And then the planning board proposed 2 conditions. One, which the developer has agreed to, related to the spring heads that are feeding the creek. That creek flows down and provides water to the lake or pond on the site of the camp. And so there's concerns that were voiced about potential impacts to that water supply. So the developers agreed to evaluate any potential impacts to that. There's also discussion between the applicant and the owner of Camp Pinewood related to providing a fence or a barrier to prevent residents from coming to the camp and playing tennis or some other type of activity. This was recommended by the planning board for the owner and the developer to come up as a condition to agree to this. Staff's recommendation is that there are some question marks about where the optimal placement with that would be, particularly as it relates to potential access to Sarasota Lane, which could be a pedestrian connection, which would be a safer potential route to get folks to the mall, shopping, jobs, places of worship, recreation, all those types of things. So we want to make sure that we're not cutting off that access. So we're fine with the owner and the developer working it out amongst themselves, but we would recommend against it being a condition of the approval. And looking at the rezoning criteria for comprehensive plan consistency, the Gen H plan identifies the property as undeveloped, and on the future land use map is designated as mixed-use commercial, and it's also located within a focused intensity node. And so that's shown here, the kind of darker area is that focused intensity node that is around the intersection that as you approach the I-26 interchange. And then the mixed-use commercial, which is described as centers of activity with a mix of retail, restaurant, service, office, and civic uses, as well as various residential housing types where buildings of 2 or more stories are common and streets feature short block lengths and pedestrian facilities. Open spaces include plazas, formal greens, and pocket parks. And this activity center is intended to be the city's most intense district outside of the downtown character area. All of the property around the subject property to the north and to the west, it has that designation. As you look to the south, there's a pretty stark change to open space recreation, and that's represented by Camp Pinewood. And then adjacent to that, you have multi-generational living. And I'll quickly note the focused intensity node is intended to be, again, these activity centers that are outside of downtown where you have a broad range of compatible uses. Within these centers, connectivity and compatible relationships should be prioritized to create seamless transitions between developments. Looking at the next criteria for compatibility, the subject property is, as I mentioned, currently Zone C3. Properties to the northwest and east are also Zone C3. The general character of the area is defined by its proximity to Four Seasons Boulevard and I-26. The uses in this area are typical for an interstate interchange, hotels, restaurants, things of that nature. It's a half-mile from the Blue Ridge Mall. To the south, the commercial character abruptly transitions to R15 medium density. The largest of these is the 50-acre parcel that we've identified as Camp Pinewood. The other R15 parcels are single-family homes located between Jack Street and North Camp Road. And then there is a pocket of residential commercial transition to the south as well, which is identified as an area where you would transition from what was previously residential uses to small-scale commercial uses. Quickly want to highlight all of the things that are allowed by right in C3 currently. A long list, that's why it's so tiny. I've highlighted a couple of things in here. So these are uses that could go on this property today without as long as they don't exceed 50,000 square feet in size, they would not be before you with seeking any approval. And some of these are rather intense and would generate pretty substantial traffic.
Matt, I'm sorry. So if there were to be a hotel or a motel on that property, provided that it didn't exceed the 50,000 square foot, what kind of size would that, I mean, 50,000 square feet, I know the size of that, but like how many rooms on a hotel would, I mean, that might be just a crazy question, but.
We don't, in terms of what we would review and what it would trigger,
Yes.
it's not based on rooms.
Okay.
All commercial uses are, for CZD, have that 50,000 square foot trigger. And then for all residential uses, it's the 50 unit, whether it's a 50 unit single family subdivision or a 51 unit, apartment complex.
Okay, so as long as it was under that threshold, we would have no say at how big essentially it would be, provided it met that size.
Correct. They would have to be compliant with our zoning ordinance standards for landscaping, lighting, all the things. But as long as they met those standards, they would be approved. Above 20,000 square feet, it does go to planning board, but planning board just acts as an extension of staff and just puts a little more eyes on it, but it's still an administrative decision between 20 and 50. So going over the compatibility, it's our analysis, staff's analysis, that multifamily is an appropriate addition to this area. It allows for a transition from the high-intensity commercial uses to the low-intensity uses that were described in the previous slide. The four-story structure that's proposed has been sited as far to the north end of the site as possible to limit impacts on the adjacent lower-intensity uses. The project, when looking at compatibility, was also found to be consistent with 6 out of the 6 relevant Gen H goals and 6 out of the 7 relevant guiding principles. Moving on to change conditions, the big one that is the focus here would be the need for affordable housing. And then that goes right into our public interest, where I've highlighted the strategic housing plan. So You'll know the numbers. They're shown on the screen. I won't go into detail on that, but those are from our new housing dashboard, and these 77 units would go into that, specifically the housing subsidy numbers that are needed. I'll also note that the 43 that are completed shown there are from Hawkins Point. For the other note on public interest is the mix of uses. So the location of high-density residential in proximity to commercial uses creates those opportunities for people to walk and bike places, reduce how long vehicular trips are. When you integrate those uses, it helps provide a number of benefits. For the public facilities, the street network, Four Seasons Boulevard, the 5-prong intersection there, it is identified as a high-risk network. It poses a risk to all users, and with a lack of bicycle and pedestrian facilities, it specifically is hazardous to those users. So I want to highlight that the annual average daily traffic, basically your average number of trips per day for Mitchell Drive is currently at 3,300 daily trips. And so Laurel Meadows project, based on the numbers I gave previously, would be responsible for less than 15% of the traffic coming from Mitchell Drive if this was approved. And then I mentioned the other by right uses, and that's also highlighted in the trip generation memo that was provided by the applicant. The other note here for public facilities is that the Parks and Green Space Master Plan identified a need in this area. It's a Phase 3 need, but that's another an area that I want to highlight is the need for recreational amenities in proximity to this site. In terms of the effect on the natural environment, we talked about the impact to the Blue Line Stream transition zone, and kind of described the existing tree canopy on the site now, but also that there would be significant landscaping added as well. And with that, the planning board put forth the consistency statement that's shown on the screen, and they unanimously supported this and provided the rationale for approval on the screen as well. Staff has a draft rationale for denial, and I'll take any questions you may have.
Questions for Mr. Manley? Okay, thank you. Would the developer like to make a presentation?
Yes, Your Honor, Council, thank y'all for allowing me to come and present. I'm just going to run through and highlight, because he hit a lot of stuff there, some of the project. I want to talk a little bit about our company, which many of you are probably familiar from working with us on Hawkins Point. We were founded in 1990, been around 35 years. The biggest thing I want to point out is that we develop, we construct, and we manage all of our properties. So when we build them to last. When we manage them as part of the community. We own our properties in perpetuity. We do not sell. So we are different than a lot of developers who will come in and third-party manage and things like that. So we have a lot of tighter controls on those. I didn't introduce myself, by the way. I'm Tommy Lohman, Senior Vice President of Development. Here with me is Nick Pack. He's a development specialist, although he's a lot sharper than I am. So we have about 20 developments in North Carolina now, and then we have 3 under construction, I think, at this point. So we're continuing to build in North Carolina. We think it's a great place to be. But I did want to highlight, I just listed a few of them here, but last year Hawkins Point won the Affordable Housing Finance Magazine's Reader's Choice Award for the best rural property or best rural development and property of the year. So we were proud of that. We were happy, and we take pride in that. You know the site. I'm not going to cover that again. I think Mr. Manley covered that well. These are the renderings. We did move this site as close as we could to the street, away from any of the natural features on the property, any of the nature, any of the streams, or anything like that. So we moved as far away from that as we could. We did also agree that we will put in extra measures. We'll do the studies, locate, identify the spring head, ensure it is protected. We have worked with engineers to put in measures on other properties and stuff like that, similar to this. We have emulsion controls that contain the sediment and bust them up and all that stuff. So we're used to working like this, and we try to do a good job to protect and maintain the environment. This is again, the concept design. I'm not going to belabor that. You've seen the unit mix, the unit count, 13 one-bedrooms, 48 two-bedrooms, 16 three-bedrooms. And our target population is general occupancy, meaning families can live there, but also seniors can live there. So it's open to anybody. You see the rent ranges there on the bottom of the screen from $360 to $950 for one bedroom, $415 to $1,095 for a two-bedroom, and $440 to $1,200 for a three-bedroom. I could go through that, but it's kind of boring. It's the same thing I said. It just talks about the incomes. This is the timeline. We would put in our application to North Carolina Housing Finance Agency May 15th. We would know if we're going to get an award September or November. Pre-construction when we're going through the final construction document set, it takes about 8 to 10 months just to ensure that we comply with everything that the city has for us to do and make sure we got all the proper permitting. Construction would take about 14 months. We like to do it quicker, but we're going to do it right, so we put 14 months in there, and then hopefully to place in service in 2028. I put the capital stack in here just to highlight something. The LIHTC equity from the sale of the tax credits is what generates the equity that then we don't have to take out so much debt, and the rent is what pays for the debt. That allows us to keep the rents low for 30-plus years, and so we continue to keep them. All we are is an affordable housing developer, so we'll just continue to keep the rents affordable through re-syndication or other options. I wanted to point out there too, we have $12.2 million from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency that we're applying for in the May round as well. This is a unique opportunity. It doesn't come around. They're working through these disaster funds. The disaster recovery funds are not like relief funds. They come several years after a disaster, but they're to take care of the remaining communities that did not, weren't able to rebuild everything, and it's just kind of what's left out there to take care of. It never is enough to take care of everything that needs to be taken care of, but it's, the state has about $120 million. We looked at, could we come in and do another, 9% deal? This we're putting in as a 4% deal. It only works because of the disaster recovery dollars, because they can support the debt on the property if we get a loan from North Carolina Housing Finance Agency on the disaster recovery funds. Unfortunately, Henderson County doesn't score well as a 9% based on the state scoring criteria. So Nick was mentioning to me earlier, he was like, this is our opportunity. I don't know when their scoring will change to put you guys back up there for the affordable housing. And this, 77 units isn't a lot compared to the 2,000 plus that's needed, but it helps, right? It just continues to help to relieve pressure across the housing continuum. We did get the bond inducement request improved by the Housing Authority. Those bonds are actually backed from money from the federal government, and so that is the portion that comes back to North Carolina. If they're not used here, they'll be used somewhere else. This is just the federal portion that comes through the state. I'm going to stop right there. I did want to say that there were questions raised at the Planning Commission, about parking and different things like that. Originally, we came in with a larger footprint because North Carolina's scoring is based on a number of units and different things like that. So we came in with a larger footprint. We needed more room. But after consideration, we shrunk it down because the site just couldn't support it. We did draw it down, but we did go over the requested parking because we managed properties over 35 years, and I spoke to one of our longtime regional managers who's over North Carolina, and she said, we see that 1.5 parking spaces for a 3-bedroom is kind of what you need, because some people have 2 cars, some people have 1 car. And she said, but 1 and 2 bedrooms, 1 car is fine. She said, otherwise you just end up with a big parking lot that nobody uses. We've just seen that because we track all the data on all of our properties, so we know that the parking is sufficient. If you have any questions, I'll be more than glad to answer them, but I'm just trying to be conscious of your time.
Questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, has this public hearing been advertised in accordance with general statutes?
Yes, Madam Mayor, it has.
We will open this public hearing. We have 5 people who have signed up in person to speak. And as with the general public hearing, when I call your name, if you will come to the microphone, restate your name and your address for the clerk's record, we would appreciate it. First is Shay Davis.
Hi, Shay Davis, and I'm here representing Schuler Funeral Home on 25 Orsa Camp Road. Sorry I missed some of the previous hearings, and I would have known maybe a little bit more about, I just have some questions today. I can speak to the traffic situation. We are right there we see it every day. There's some very dicey situations with traffic backups and some near misses, people not understanding where traffic doesn't stop and where the stop signs are. So I just have some questions about what the mitigation plans are, if there are any plans. I did hear from someone who had attended some hearings that there might be plans for a traffic circle that might take our parking lot, and if that is still the case, or if, if there was a plan for that. I didn't know if someone could answer that question for me, possibly.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any plans to do, we don't know of any plans to do a traffic circle.
Okay, so just leaving traffic as is, okay. Because there's days that traffic backs up down Orrs Camp Road, past our building, from the traffic light. And we care for over 400 families a year out of that building, so if we were to lose our parking lot because of, traffic, that would really destroy our business. So while I sympathize with the need for affordable housing, and I know that you all are in a difficult position, I've been in your seat, I would hate for it to affect the local businesses, because we have a job to do as well, and we try to give back to our community and serve the families in this town as well. So I would hate for it to destroy our business. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Ken Fitch.
Ken Fitch, 1046 Patton Street. Tonight, as we issue a proclamation for Housing Month in the city of Hendersonville, as prepared by our gracious city attorney, we look forward to consideration of proposals to address this important need. The project now before you employs the familiar tax credit project model for facilitating such an important project. Here, as with any project, and especially a project like this, with an important purpose, it is also incumbent upon us to ensure high standards for the future residents and compatibility with neighboring properties and uses. The location for this project does present some issues, as it is situated on two awkward parcels, for which the applicant has requested some relief from standards and regulations to be able to place this project at this location. And of course, a waiver should not unduly compromise important standards and understandings. Stormwater management is a special concern here, and of such importance that Mike Huffman himself appeared in person at the planning board to discuss the issue. And particular attention has been to the neighboring children's camp. A camp is a special entity with its role in the culture and the economy of the region. And even now, some Main Street merchants are setting out signs of welcome for the summer camp families. We do not have many camps in the city, but we must regard them with the same special attention that we would for a school. A summer camp experience traditionally is one of interaction with nature and the environment. So protection of this environment becomes an important consideration. And especially here at this camp, with its quiet forested enclave and focus on water activities. And that generates the serious attention to the stream on the project property that is the water source for the lake and the streams at the camp. Especially as this project would entail nearby construction of a 4-story building, parking lots, and a stormwater system, and their inevitable impacts on the quality of the water, as well as air conditions that are critical for the adjacent children's presence. The applicant has stated that he is undertaking geotech studies and EPA review, and they are of critical relevance here for an appropriate decision, especially as we are now ever mindful of the reality of frequent storm events that overwhelm traditional systems and capacity, hence Mr. Hubman's concern, and also the camp, where this is a major issue with its focus on children's activity in an environment which might then experience serious impacts from adjacent development and construction that places at risk activities for a most treasured population. Reality may overwhelm assurances, and the uncertainties here loom large. One might be faced with a blunt question. With the uncertainties of this situation, would you send your child to this camp? But there is more. This area was the location of the Piedmont air crash almost 60 years ago. There was a horrific event with the death of 82 people, with a mid-air collision of two planes, and there were explosions, planes torn open and bodies and body parts falling from the sky, and debris and jet fuel covering a wide path of impact in this area. As in Killeen, the local community mobilized with hundreds of emergency service workers, volunteers, mill workers, citizens coming together to respond to the catastrophic event. And sometime later, a memorial to those lost was placed a quarter-mile away at the multi-pronged intersection that you have just heard about in comment. Now, the applicant may have exercised due diligence in assessing this situation as part of the EPA reviews, which now have special importance in this matter. Years later, there may be no remaining visible evidence from this horrific event, but to construct a four-story building on this site, and to construct its essential stormwater system may unearth material best left undisturbed. Again, there may be nothing left now but memory, or what some might describe as the haunting presence of human departure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fitch. Casey Schroeder.
Good evening. Casey Schroeder, 220 Mitchell Drive. Own Schroeder Power Sports right beside the location that they're wanting to build the building. One thing to note, I like growth. I like seeing Hendersonville prosper. I'm not opposed to buildings going up or anything being built. I'm actually for it. Looking at this particular site, when I heard about the 77-unit building going there, threw a ton of red flags. Number one was the traffic situation. As they just stated, which I didn't even know about, there's 3,300 cars per day on that little road. If you've been on that road, you would understand that's a lot of traffic. One way in, one way out. There's 5 roads at the end that intersect in front of a red light at Four Seasons. Traffic's horrendous. And to top that off, Starbucks is right at the bottom of it. They block traffic every day. I mean, in and out. My employees, my customers have to drive on the wrong side of the road to get up the road most of the time. And I couldn't even imagine adding, any more traffic to that situation. We have a lot of customers on motorcycles, side-by-sides, tractor trailers that come in there. It's a lot of traffic, and there's not been a solution put in place yet. It's already above capacity. I believe they're trying to sugarcoat it, maybe pull the wool over your eyes in some points. Sarasota Lane, the other side where they've got a right-of-way, I actually own property on that too. That's a very small right-of-way up a very steep hill. They won't be able to get a road accessible for their traffic in there. No way. As far as affordable housing goes, I'm all for it. I currently own right under 100 rentals here in Henderson County. Pretty much 100% of my tenants are low income, so I'm not opposed to that at all. I love to see it. On Mitchell Drive especially, everything on that road is commercial. There's not one residence on it. This is a highway use main revenue stream that Henderson County and city can use. If they do residential there, they're gonna miss out on all the sales tax that comes in from people outside of town that can help grow our community. I think there's other issues about this building on that particular piece of property. I'm 40 years old now. I've worked there since I was 10 years old. I know that property in and out. The creek, which has been brought up a few times, that's been a running creek, you know, before I was born. Before any buildings, there was a house at the very end of the road. That creek's been there. Over time, it has actually moved inward on their property. So a lot of their property they're showing you is actually on my side of the creek, which I think they need to address that. I don't see how they've got enough room with what they've proposed. You know, if they, in my opinion, they could, to resolve some of the situations that I see, and I hope you guys haven't already made your minds up about this and really look into it a little bit. You know, if they could provide maybe commercial on the bottom and then residential upstairs, that would, you know, make me feel better about the income loss that I'm seeing for the county and city. But the traffic situation has got to be addressed. You know, if they're going to be doing this, I believe it's going to open up more cans of worms than y'all are already dealing with. So before you approve it, need to have them address all these situations, be more clear about it. We didn't have a lot of time to get involved. You know, we just found out about this project not very long ago. We got a letter in the mail, just like anybody else would. So that's why we're here. The sign went up on the property about 5 or 6 days ago. So I'm a little concerned with that also. I know most people on Orr's Camp Road have not, you know, I don't know if they've been told, even though they're not in close proximity, but anybody that's on even Orr's Camp Road, the traffic situation at Four Seasons, huge problem. I won't go into, you know, rents. I think they're going to have some issues. I hope you guys, Henderson County, you know, they let it through because they knew you guys were another wall to stop them. They had to go through your approvals. I'm hoping you guys can take some more time, consider it. You know, even if it goes through, if they get a design that works, great. I'm all for it. But a lot of these issues need to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schroeder. Next, is it Courtney Plumbing?
Hi. 220 Mitchell Drive. So I'm also representing on behalf of Schroeder Power Sports. I just wanted to read to you today an open letter that we have written, we've posted on our social media, so it's there for your viewing. I believe we tagged you. I'd like to thank you for your time and really consider the impact that this is going to have on these small local businesses in our community. To reiterate, we are not opposed to the need for additional housing. However, we are deeply concerned about the suitability of this specific location and strain this project would place on an already overburdened area. The proposed development would significantly increase traffic, create safety risk, and exceed the capacity of a small road that was not designed to handle sustained higher vehicle volumes. We support responsible development, but only when it includes clear and enforceable measures to address traffic, pedestrian safety, emergency access, drainage, and overall infrastructure impacts prior to approval. I think to address some of the
requests and concerns that we have to reiterate the traffic impact study. Require a comprehensive traffic impact study, including recommended mitigation measures, a defined timeline for implementation, roadway and safety improvements. If this project proceeds, require necessary upgrades such as widened or realigned access points, turning lanes, sidewalks, crosswalks, and adequate street lighting. Again, if you've been down Mitchell Drive between the hours of 7:30 in the morning to 8:20 in the morning when people are trying to get their Starbucks fill, it is a dangerous road to travel down. Cars are lined up, parked in a hotel parking lot where there's a concrete barricade. There's delivery trucks that are delivering to the hotel there adjacent from the Starbucks. Equally, Starbucks delivery truck that parks on Mitchell Drive. As well as you continue down Mitchell Drive, out back, every single tractor trailer that goes down Mitchell Drive goes down to the bottom of the cul-de-sac there and turns around. I'd like to also acknowledge the safety hazard of an additional 569 daily trips would increase danger at critical points, particularly near the blind curve by the Econo Lodge and Schroeder's Power Sports, where vehicles already face limited visibility when entering and exiting. We're a power sport dealership. We have motorcycles and UTVs exiting our dealership daily. This is a huge traffic impact and safety concern for us, for our customers. I'd like to also acknowledge to the emergency access. Ensuring emergency services have guaranteed unobstructed access and that response times will not be negatively impacted. I can't imagine that intersection on Four Seasons and Mitchell Drive across from Carolina Village, which is a huge intersection. There's emergency going into Carolina Village all the time. Adding an additional traffic increase, even just 15%, what you're saying to the 3,300 cars that are there daily, that's a huge impact. I would also like to bring up the parking spaces. The developer indicated that 135 parking spaces are required. However, the current plan only provides 109. This shortfall will likely force vehicles to park on the street, creating an additional safety hazard and obstructing tractor-trailer access. Rezoning this commercial property for residential use eliminates potential opportunities for small businesses. Schroeder's Honda has operated on Mitchell Drive since 1970, spanning 3 generations and contributing to the community for over 50 years. We hold events at our dealership. We bring a lot of local tourism. Leaf season, we're a big impact in the tourism brought into Henderson County. How are our events at our dealership going to have an impact on the life that you're trying to bring into a residential community? Is that noise? Is that going to be an issue? Is that something that's been considered in this? I want to mention rezoning this property within a major commercial corridor to residential use would eliminate future opportunities for the city and county to collect approximately 2% in local sales tax revenue generated by potential commercial development. Interstate adjacent commercial property in this area is limited. Converting this site to residential use not only removes opportunities for small business growth, but also reduces the capture of out-of-county consumer spending that contributes to the local tax base. This represents a long-term loss of recurring revenue that supports public services and infrastructure. I want to just really quickly hit, I do believe at a previous meeting there was a roundabout brought up. I know that that's not necessarily in the proposed development, but I believe it was brought up because of the traffic concerns. I worry with the commercial vehicle traffic, the trucks, delivery vans, and service vehicles, how that impact, how is an 18-wheeler going to target that roundabout in that small of an area? How is the traffic flow from Starbucks going to overflow onto Four Seasons Boulevard with a roundabout? I don't know if you've ever been in a congested roundabout, but that's the perfect place for one. In conclusion, we respectfully request that the council require a full traffic impact study, consider a more suitable location for the development, require infrastructure improvements prior to any approval, deny the proposed rezoning if these concerns cannot be adequately addressed. So, thank you for your time. Do you have?
Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Fleming. Biren Patel.
My name is Biren Patel, 240 Mitchell Drive. I'm the owner of Red Roof Inn. Madam Mayor, council members, thank you for the opportunity. I've been there 25 years. The Red Roof Inn was built in 2001. And it's a cul-de-sac, and then they built Outback. So only 2 businesses are there right now. And then Econo Lodge and Daisy are at the beginning of Mitchell Drive. The problem, what they're talking about, the traffic, is Starbucks. People are turning into the drive-through, and the drive-through is full. They start waiting on the Mitchell Drive. They will not go into their parking lot, park the car, and get their coffee. They just stand there. That backs up all the way to Oars Camp Road, and then it backs up, into Four Seasons when people are turning. So that's the issue. There is not 3,300 cars. I've been there for 25 years. It's just a 49-room hotel. There's 80-room Econo Lodge. Our occupancy has been 50% average. So you're talking, for my hotel, 25 cars per day. Outback, it's hard to tell. I mean, they are not open all day long. They're just open in the evenings. As a business owner, my employees are having problem finding housing. And if we don't have employees, we cannot serve the visitors. What they're saying, visitors will come, spend 2% on sales tax. But if I don't have hotels, where are they going to stay? And an affordable hotel. So the issue is also, we need to have affordable housing for our employees, which is nearby to all the businesses. Four Seasons has so many businesses. I'm sure they're going to help all these businesses when their employees get affordable housing. So it's important. So I support this project 100%. Regarding the creek, there has not been any water flowing naturally from these properties except the pond, which are fed by the by the cul-de-sac storm drain. So all the water that comes on the road and Red Roof Inn and Outback, that goes into this pond. Then the pond has this culvert and slow releases into the creek. So the creek starts after this. So there's no creek in that property. That's just the pond is the beginning of that thing. So that's another issue that I think it's not being clearly mentioned to you. I've been there as a witness. Regarding the tree canopy, when I built the Red Roof Inn in 2001, the whole property, everything was graded flat. There was hardly any trees. When we went to the planning board, they made us plant, I believe, 25 to 30 broadleaf trees on my property. And those are all maple and oak trees. They look beautiful during, now that's what I would recommend they do for these properties also. So there was no trees 20 years ago. So whatever has grown, they are smaller trees. Now they've grown in the backside of Red Roof. They're grown so tall that even my satellite signals being impacted. I can't, I'm not going to cut the trees. I'm going to go back to cable companies instead of direct satellites. So some of this traffic issue is there, I agree. But they need to put a stop sign on Oars Camp going towards Four Seasons. And then there's 5 roads coming, so all, except the road that comes from Four Seasons, Orscam, that doesn't need a stop sign, but all the rest of needs a stop sign. So if DOT can get involved and put stop signs, then this problem will be solved. And Outback there needs to be a sign, no stopping on Mitchell Drive. That's the problem. And 77 apartments, maybe I'll add 100 cars, and everybody's not going out at the same time. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Right. Is there anyone online wishing to speak?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Is there any person here who did not sign up at the beginning who wishes to speak? We'll close
Mayor, I just want to make sure, I want to acknowledge that we received the letter from the Schroeders that was emailed. Just want to acknowledge that the council has seen it, came in today, the clerk delivered it. So just for the record, wanted to take care of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did all receive that. Okay. All right. We will close the public hearing. Council? Discussion?
I just have a couple questions. What are the general statute requirements for notification to property owners? And did we follow those?
I'm going to ask community development staff to come up and talk about what they did. I have to look in the general statutes. I know it has to be advertised twice in the paper. The first, not more than 25 days. The second, not less than 10 days before the public hearing. I'm quite sure that was done. They certify that in the file that was done. And then I don't know how many days in advance it has to be posted.
It's between the 10 and 25. We posted on March 20th. So we are within that time frame. Excuse me. And we also mail letters to all property owners within 400 feet of the property boundary. Okay. So any address that's on the tax record gets picked up with the 400 feet. So it's the advertising, it's the letter, and it's the posting.
It's also on the website.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
My other question is, what type of flexibility do we have with NCDOT to request like a traffic impact or safety study be done at that intersection? I've been to Starbucks in the morning. I know it's a disaster out there, and the quality of the road is actually very poor as well. I've reported potholes maybe 6 times individually myself. So
I think clearly the city council could request any of those things of DOT, whether they're take us up on it or we'll do it or ask us to pay for it. That's, I guess, is the question as it relates to impact. Do I remember the condition? Was there a condition to waive an traffic impact? So
yes,
I don't want.
It's included right now. That it would be.
So we have just. The question was asked. There's a condition that's been waived, requiring the developer himself to do a traffic impact analysis. So that is there now. But if council, I don't know whether traffic impact is the question or the condition of the road and the stop signs. And if I get over my skis, y'all correct me.
My question is more that distal intersection. Is there a way we could have DOT look at that intersection for safety improvements?
Yeah, City Council, I believe, could request DOT to take a look at that intersection.
Okay.
I'll quickly note that we're also received an award to do the Four Seasons corridor.
That's right.
Circulation study, and this. So we'll be studying this as well, and then that will allow us to even better inform our ask to NCDOT. But yes,
we have that grant already, and it's coming.
We just did that, and then we also extended it all the way down to Howard Gap, not to Howard Gap, to Sugarloaf.
Sugarloaf, that's right.
The Sugarloaf intersection?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
I do think in the short term, we need to at least ask them about putting the stop sign on Orrs Camp. Because I also think that the condition of this road and the scariness of that intersection, for the lack of a better term, is happening without this development there. Like, this is a problem that's been around for a hot minute. And I do think maybe if there's some way, I don't know, to meet with the people at Starbucks to be like, hey, we need to put some sort of signage up that's like, you can't stop on the road, be in the parking lot. Maybe they get rid of that other entrance. I don't know what it is, but that does cause a majority of the problems. And I know doing the study and getting with NCDOT is going to take a real long time, but I bet they might be more amicable to at least getting a stop sign there to stop people from, you know, having that blind intersect, because I've tried to leave the bank several times and it's terrifying. Yeah. I do think a couple other comments. Were you done? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay. A couple other comments that I wanted to make were, I think this project is unique because it would be applicable for these tax credits, and there's only very few, probably less than 10 properties within the county or within the city that would actually qualify for this tax credit based on the parameters that are set by the state. Which it was mentioned that it is hard in our area to be able to score highly for those. So I think that is one reason why this location would have been chosen. The other thing would be, Mr. Manley did show a list of the things that are there by right that would not come in front of us. And I would imagine that a 4-story hotel would probably be more than 77 rooms with people that are leaving and moving about more frequently than folks who live there, specifically people who are visiting that wouldn't be familiar with the road. So, I mean, if it's up to me, I would rather us be able to choose a project that would benefit our community as a whole and that I think would cause less of an impact than some of these things that could happen without coming in front of us at all. Like, somebody could just buy that property and do that today. So I just think that that would be a better option than something from that myriad list of items.
I agree, and to piggyback off of that, what is currently allowed by right includes residential, right? Single family?
Single family and two-family, multifamily is not permitted in C3.
Right, okay, so the, thinking about the commercial option and potential loss of potential future sales tax, to me feels a little less urgent knowing that there could be single family there and getting instead an affordable, a 77 unit affordable project that may not be able to come through anytime soon in another property in another location.
I will add to, I don't know if any of you guys have been to Hawkins Point. I was there for their grand opening, and being able to see the residents and talk to them there about how Hawkins Point literally has changed their entire life. There are a couple people, residents that are living there who were displaced from the hurricane and have been living in a hotel. And so being able to hear real life stories of people who are severely cost burdened in this area, be able to have a home that they can be proud of and be able to afford it's really special to be able to do that. And I think it's a good project. I think you guys did a great job on Hawkins Point as well. And also, I think Mr. Patel was mentioning just that entire corridor of service industry employees. These are the types of dwellings that they can afford and that they can live in. And, you know, it's a tough decision, but then also when I think about what could potentially go there, and I think we can really work hard to address the traffic impacts to your properties. And I'm not even sure if we've actually just had law enforcement out there patrolling or increased patrolling just for those rush hour times to minimize the impact to y'all and just traffic flow. But I would like to try to maybe look into doing that as well, at least temporarily, until we can get a stop sign to maybe help move traffic a little bit more efficiently.
Yeah, and I think I'd also just like to add that I heard all of y'all from Schroeder say that you're not opposed to affordable housing, and I really appreciate hearing that from people in the community. And so I feel like it feels universally important to all of us that we ensure that we do what we can do to make sure that that area is functional. So I think coming up with like these ideas is good for us to get the ball rolling on them, because it is, you know, to me, this is an ideal location for affordable building because of the points that Mr. Patel made about being close to service industry, because that land is uniquely suited for that. So I would like to move that forward in a way that works for the local businesses too. And if that looks like us moving forward on asking for a traffic impact analysis from DOT, then I think that makes sense to me.
I agree. In fact, that's what my note, I had made some notes of the traffic, impact of the traffic. And if we can address, if that can be addressed, I'm all for the affordable housing. And I must admit that Hawkins Point, they're very good neighbors. They're down the street from my church. You maintain the property, and there hasn't been any issues there. So if we could just address that issue.
I also heard from a couple of neighbors of Hawkins Point with, I don't know if anybody remembers, but we did have several folks that came out to the public comment that live right behind there, and they had concerns about the construction. And I heard from at least one of them, possibly two of them, within the last couple of weeks about how conscientious Woda Cooper was when working with the project and working with them and keeping communication up. And so I think when mostly we hear horror stories about construction projects being next to people's houses, I greatly appreciated hearing that you all were taking an active step to be a member in the community and not just kind of steamroll the neighbors. I do think to talk about one of the actual business things, which was the fence condition. I agree with staff that that is between the two property owners, and that is not something for us to be conditioning.
Anything else? Anyone?
Madam Mayor, I move City Council adopt an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the City of Hendersonville, changing the zoning designation of the subject property pins 9579-45-0556 and 9579-45-2846 from C3 Highway Business to Urban Residential Conditional Zoning District for the development of a 77-unit low-income housing tax credit multifamily project based on the preliminary site plan and list of conditions submitted by and agreed to by the applicant and presented at this meeting, and subject to the following. The development shall be consistent with the site plan, including the list of applicable conditions contained therein, and the following permitted uses. There's nothing there. Okay. The petition is found to be consistent with the City of Hendersonville Gen H comprehensive plan based on the information from the staff analysis and the public hearing, and because the petition for the low-income housing tax credit multifamily project is consistent with the future land use and conservation map designation of mixed-use commercial. Additionally, the petition is consistent with a range of the goals and guiding principles, including those supporting affordable housing, compact development, and the mixing of land uses. We find this petition to be reasonable and in the public interest based on the information from the staff analysis, public hearing, and because the proposed development is compatible with surrounding residential and non-residential land uses. The proposed development allows for a mix of uses within a focused intensity node, and the proposed development serves to address the city's need for additional subsidized affordable housing.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion? Not? Those in favor of the conditional rezoning for Laurel Meadows, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries, and that rezoning has been accomplished.
May I just
And we-
add
yeah.
something? So since everybody's on board with reaching out to DOT, I'll send an email in the morning to our district engineer too, and just request that they analyze that intersection as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
That'll help. Okay.
Okay. Well, we wish you the best, and especially with getting the LIHTC funding. All right. Second public hearing is a conditional zoning district, Osceola Lake Inn redevelopment. Mr. Hayes.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council. The city is in receipt of a conditional rezoning application for the Osceola Lake Inn redevelopment project. The location of the property is 159 Osceola Road. This is in the ETJ. And the applicants for the project are Joey Burnett and Fiona McCauley, and the owner is Green Horizons Property Group, LLC. The property is 3.49 acres, and it's currently zoned R15 CZD, which is Medium Density Residential Conditional Zoning District, and the proposed zoning is R10 CZD, which is also called Medium Density Residential Conditional Zoning District. There was a neighborhood compatibility meeting held for this project on December 9th, and some of the topics discussed included impact of the project on neighboring properties, concerns over density. I will note that that was a prior proposal which had 26 proposed residential units, and this current iteration has 14. And then questions pertaining to improvements to the surrounding roads. So looking at some of the site photos, the centerpiece of this project is a historic inn, the Osceola Inn, which dates to the early 1900s. So you can see that in the upper left-hand corner image. In the upper right-hand corner, that's an existing parking lot, which is proposed to be improved and added onto. In the lower left-hand corner, you can see a private right-of-way that runs along the southern portion of the property. And then the lower right-hand corner is looking into the property from the far east of the site. So getting into the site plan, there are kind of two parts to this project. There's the existing structures, which are being proposed to be adaptively reused. We have an adaptive reuse ordinance, and so they would be utilizing that ordinance. And the proposal is to have 10 hotel rooms, 15 artist studios, a restaurant, a bar, an event space, and a business center. So all of that would be housed in the existing structures that are there, which are on this image highlighted in like the mustard yellow color. I will note that the applicant is going to speak to this a little bit more, but for the list of uses, they are hoping to add a use which would be accessory uses. So it'd be hotel and accessory uses. They already have some of those accessory uses listed, such as the restaurant and bar and business center, but they would like to use accessory uses, including those that are already listed out. So if you all are amenable to that and would like to use that, Mr. Connett has a revised motion for you all. In addition to what is being proposed in the existing structures, they are also proposing to construct new structures that would house a wellness center, a tea house, and then there's a residential component, new construction residential component that includes a community building, or resiliency hub is also what they're calling that building. And so, actually, I'm going to go back. I'll talk a little bit more about the residential. So there are 14 residential units. They'd be utilizing our planned residential development part of our ordinance. And so we actually have a half-unit density credit for any unit under 1,200 square feet. So if you're using that density credit, then it actually equates out to 9 units. They have several smaller units that they're planning to construct. I mentioned there's an existing parking lot along the northern boundary of the property. They are proposing to expand that a little bit. There is an existing parking lot that they would also improve in the lower corner of the property, and then that private drive would also have parking along there. As of right now, they are meeting our parking standards for the site. They have the exact number of parking spaces that would be required. That would, of course, be confirmed at the final site plan approval time. The landscaping also meets our minimum requirements as of now. However, staff will need to review a final landscaping plan with more details to ensure full compliance. I will note that this does not trigger our tree canopy preservation ordinance, so they do not have to preserve tree canopy. However, they have indicated that there are some larger mature trees that they are going to preserve. There are several outstanding comments from the last review of this project, none that are coming from the planning department. All of the zoning requirements have been met, but basically they were to have conversations with other departments and entities, so fire, utilities, NCDOT, and stormwater. I do believe the applicant has had those conversations, and ultimately they will have to get approval from each of those departments before getting their final site plan approval. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get into the conditions. And I'm stuck on this slide. Don't know if this died, maybe. Oh, no. Whoa. Okay, there we go. We're back. So there are 3 phases proposed for this project. So all of the existing buildings and then the parking are included in phase 1 of the project. So you can see that in yellow. Phase 2 would be the new construction, so the wellness center and the tea house, which is a component of that adaptive reuse part of the project, and then the residential component and that community building are all included in phase 3 on the right-hand side of this plan. So the developer had 2 proposed conditions, and city staff is fine with both of these conditions. The first one is allow accessory buildings to be set in front of the principal structure. So that wellness center is sitting in front of the historic inn, which would be considered the principal structure. In our R10 ordinance, you can't have accessory buildings in front of the principal structure, so this would enable that structure to be able to be placed kind of in front of that in building. And then number 2, allow for additional structures to serve as accessory uses to the primary adaptive reuse, thereby waiving section 16-4-2C. So in our adaptive reuse, we actually don't allow for the construction of new buildings. They normally would have to go in the existing structures on the property. The applicant is hoping to construct that wellness center and the tea house. Those are new structures, and so they would need this part of that ordinance to be waived to allow for the construction of those. And then city staff had 3 conditions at planning board. I'll address the third one in just a second, but the first 2 that planning board did recommend, the project must be compliant with all applicable fire, utility, NCDOT, and stormwater standards upon final site plan approval. This is something we're already doing, but we wanted to also include it as a condition. And then number 2, the renovation of the historic structure should be done in the spirit of the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. Those are national standards for rehabilitating historic structures. This condition was written by staff in consultation with legal. It's kind of as far as we think we can push the preservation element of this. In the conditional rezoning process. There's another process, the historic landmarking process, that would put more regulations on this property, but that is a separate process. So this is the condition that we crafted to encourage the use of the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation in the redevelopment of this project. And then the third was a condition that was proposed for planning board. They accepted it, and it's now not necessary. It's the resiliency hub, which is that community building shall be constructed as part of the residential construction phase of the plan. It is shown in phase 3 of their plan now, and so we don't need this as a condition, and it's not included on the site plan for the city proposed conditions. And the developer has agreed to the first two conditions. Getting into comprehensive plan consistency, this is in the family neighborhood living future land use designation. There is some multi-generational living nearby, as well as the open space classification. The subject property is located in an area designated as somewhat low for development intensity. As I mentioned, it's the family neighborhood living future land use designation, and staff found it to be consistent with the character area description, and then it's also consistent with the zoning crosswalk. Currently, the property is R15 CZD. The surrounding area primarily is R15, and it's mostly a residential area. There is some commercial, though, in the larger vicinity. Looking at the existing conditions, the subject property currently has a 4-story inn, which includes an existing restaurant space, 2 additional structures with guest rooms in them, a former dance hall that serves as a residence, and several paved and gravel parking areas. The previous conditional rezoning authorized the inn to be adaptively reused as a hotel with 20 guest rooms, a cafe, an event and conference space, as well as a residential component. When looking at the Gen H goals, staff found that the project was consistent with a good number of the goals, and then it was also consistent with all of the Gen H guiding principles. Looking at the changed conditions, the applicant's business model has evolved, resulting in the need for more uses to be allowed on the site, as well as a new construction housing element. Looking at the public interest, the redevelopment of this site would activate a large parcel in the city's ETJ that has a large existing structure and existing infrastructure. The small increase in density from R15 to R10 is a logical progression, especially given the adaptive reuse of the site. The subject property will be required to petition to annex to receive sewer connection for the new construction on the site. However, the existing structures have access to sewer already through a previous agreement with the city. And then for effects on the natural environment, the project does not trigger tree canopy preservation, though the applicant has elected to preserve a large number of mature trees along the northern boundary. The applicant is proposing a number of sustainable development practices that will assist with stormwater retention and other environmental impacts. The planning board recommended this for approval. The motion carried 9-0. And this is the draft comprehensive plan consistency statement, as well as the rationale for approval that planning board used, and then we have a rationale for denial. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Any questions from Mr. Hayes? Okay, thank you. Would the developers like to make a presentation or say anything?
Fiona McCauley, 159 Osceola Road in Hendersonville, one of the owners and developers. I think Sam did a pretty good presentation explaining what we're trying to do. We've agreed with the conditions. I think for us, we're not doing a lot of changing to the historical building itself, a little painting and freshening it up. But I do like that condition being in there because our main goal, ever since we discovered this amazing building, has been to try and save it and preserve it. So if in the future, 100 years' time from now or whatever, that's still in there and other people have to do the same thing, that's awesome. So in the big picture, I'm happy to answer any specific questions that you may have, or otherwise, I think Joey might have a couple of little things to say as well. So if you have any questions for me, or I can come back.
Hi, yes, I'm Joey. I'm one of the designers on the project. Do we have access to the drawings that we submitted as well? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so one of the conditions is the wellness center in the front of the structure. We have slotted it towards the rear of the structure. We have an elevation that shows this relationship to the historic structure, and it's been designed to kind of facilitate more of a garden structure, so it doesn't try and compete with the historic inn, try to highlight that, that element. The desire to build a new structure in that capacity was trying to be inclusive. The historic inn has some, accessibility was not a big deal in 1909. So we are trying to create a more accessible and inclusive wellness type experience for the community. And so it behooved us to make a separate structure for that. And like I said, we're trying to celebrate the historical nature of the inn and not trying to compete with it. So it's a single story structure. It's more garden elements on the exterior. And then, yeah, the tea house is more of like an outdoor pavilion type element that is centralized in the courtyard that allows for all the elements that kind of congregate in a more formal nature. And then a big component of this was what we're calling the resiliency hub. And this was kind of driven out of Helene. You know, a lot of neighbors came together. I would think this particular design element is to help resource those community members to support each other more. So there's elements in there like showers, laundry, kitchens, and stuff like that where they can be supported with a solar array to withstand longer power outages, a central place for people to get together, communicate, have a fresh meal, feel like a human again, take a hot shower, all those great things. So if there's any other questions about the design, happy to take them.
Any questions?
I did have a question, Madam Mayor, but they've answered. I was wanting to know if it was going to be open to the general public.
Yes, yeah, the functions on the end will be general public, and then the Resiliency Hub will be open to the community during climate events.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay, Madam Clerk, has this public hearing been advertised in accordance with general statutes?
Yes, Madam Mayor, it has.
We will open the public hearing. We had 2 people sign up. Ken Fitch.
Ken Fitch, 1046 Patton Street. This is a bold, visionary project, but it is literally grounded in adaptive reuse of a beloved historic building, now to be restored to vibrant life, for which the project enjoys wide support, especially the first phase of reinvigorating the historic inn. As the owner knows, the neighbors and some of the planning board members were attentive to the location of the 2 new buildings that you've just heard a discussion about, and the concern that it would disrupt the historic scene. If we had the pictures tonight, maybe we'd see the alternative they're proposing. Obviously, if it's more of a garden structure, it probably is going to solve the concerns. This remains an important thing to be attentive to because the setting can be very important for consideration of preservation grants and designations where the integrity of the historic setting is the important element. And the 3rd phase with a housing complex that might realize a vision of an artist colony where artists live and work in community is especially bold. However, NCDOT review and emergency fire access may require an alteration of the plans. But also an exceptionally important is a resolution of any conflicts or incompatibility with the adjacent neighbors who well understand this area and its issues. And one hopes that some dialogue will continue to resolve any remaining issues. This is essential going forward. This project is an adventure. May it go forth compatibly.
Thank you, Mr. Fitch. Virginia Tagle signed up, but I think she had to leave. Okay. All right. Is anyone online wishing to speak?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else here last minute? Okay. You would give your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Maria Burnett, and I live at 511 West Chestnut Drive. I am about a 15-minute walk to the inn, 5-minute bike ride, and I'm very passionate about this project. I wrote some notes so I would be able to talk in front of you guys. So I'm here tonight because this project moves me. What sits on this land right now and parts of the land that are proposed for new build is kudzu and decay. I heard a person behind me say that this place is a dump. So I'd like to include that now. I think the inn itself is beautiful, and there's a lot of work and love going into preserving the quality of this space. It's really important to the owners, and I know this personally, so I know that that's there. And the new structures that are being proposed are only going to improve this land, especially from the side of, I mean, all sides, but depending on what we're considering the dump part, I think that would be considered on the side that is facing the lake. So the kudzu that is growing up the land is pretty prevalent there. So when you're walking around the lake, which many people do, there's a public parking access there. People fish, they bike around the lake. There's a lot of families there, and so that hill up is where a lot of the improvements, I think, are just going to be beautiful. So I'm in strong support of this. And the project is trying to work with nature, so there's going to be community gardens, revitalizing this area in a way that I think is going to be beneficial to everyone involved. Yeah, I just really wanted to come up here to let you know that I am someone that lives here full-time and love this area and love this space, and am excited to have it within walking distance of me and create this third place where we can gather and create community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Michael Watson. I live at 1514 Greenville Highway in Hendersonville. I represent 3 families who have invested in Osceola Lake Inn with the intention of becoming residents at the 14 residences that are on the other side, the east side of the property. And I just wanted to come up and say that this opportunity is very exciting for us. We are like a forming co-housing community. We want to live closely with each other. We want to share our lives together and be as close to family as we can with each other. And this feels like a very powerful opportunity for us to make that vision happen. I think it's really a shame that we don't have the art here, because Joey has done a really fantastic job of designing these residences in ways that are very compatible with the existing structures. I think that they will they have a very cohesive design to them that will really just, I think, make the whole area feel more beautiful and more appealing to the people that are walking around the lake there. And Fiona, the owner, has indicated that the people living in the residences would be the stewards of the Resiliency Hub. And I just want to let you all know that we are very excited about the opportunity to steward this place and to open it to the public to give back to our community if the need should arise again. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Anyone else?
Mayor Vogt, we do have Ms. Teagle online, and she has raised her hand,
okay.
if you will. So.
Okay.
Virginia Teagle, you are unmuted.
Thank you so much. Don't we live in a great town where I can sit in a meeting, realize it's dark, and get home on my bicycle so I can log on to the meeting and still speak? And really, that captures part of what this project, the Osceola Inn, is about. I've actually frequently visited the site on my bicycle And I love the fact that this can be a third place that many folks sitting in the sessions for the reviewing the strategic plan for the city mentioned that these are the types of facilities that we yearn for. And to piggyback on another comment, when I'm no longer able to care for my home that I live on right here in town, I look forward to joining the community as a resident. And I've got to believe the neighbors at Osceola at large have got to be excited about this project and turning, yes, some parts are certainly decrepit, but turning this into a viable community asset that we can all enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, go ahead and close that public hearing. Council, discussion, or motion?
First, before I make this, I do want to say that we did see the renderings. They were in our packet, so it's not that we didn't. They were beautiful, by the way. Nice job. Thank you.
Wait, before you make a motion, I just want to say, I think that there has been like sufficient support shown, but I just want to add that I am thrilled about this because that building has meant a lot to me, and I know it's meant a lot to so many community members. And I'm grateful that the people who are taking care of it care about the historic value that it has of the building itself and also to the community. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we before we moved along from it.
Okay, I'm going to talk now. Okay. Madam Mayor, I move City Council adopt an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the City of Hendersonville, changing the zoning designation of the subject property PIN 95683159964 from R15 CZD Medium Density Residential Conditional Zoning District to R10 CZD Medium Density Residential Conditional Zoning District, based on the site plan and list of conditions submitted by and agreed to by the applicant and presented at this meeting, and subject to the following. The development shall be consistent with the site plan, including the list of applicable conditions contained therein, and the following permitted uses: adaptive reuse, hotel with accessory uses, including but not limited to cafe, bar, retail, offices, wellness, artist studios, and 14 residential units. The petition is found to be consistent with the City of Hendersonville Gen H 2045 comprehensive plan based on the information from the staff analysis, and because the petition is consistent with a range of goals, guiding principles, and the future land use designation of family neighborhood living as defined in Chapter 4 of the Gen H comprehensive plan, we find this petition to be reasonable and in the public interest based on the information from the staff analysis, public hearing, and because the petition proposes to adaptively reuse an important historic structure. The petition provides a needed additional housing on a portion of the property. The petition provides a number of sustainability features that align with the goals identified in the comprehensive plan, and the petition seeks to revitalize an outdated commercial area.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Not? Those in favor of the conditional zoning district for Osceola Lake Inn redevelopment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. And that's moved on. Thank you. All right. Another rezoning, a conditional zoning district, 109 Florence Street. Twice.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. I'm hoping this one will go a little easier as well. So this application is from Alan Sowers of Alsco Inc. for 109 Florence Street. So this is a property totaling 2.46 acres located at the end of Florence Street at Brooklyn Avenue. So this property was originally rezoned, I guess I can move forward, sorry. This property was originally rezoned to C2 CZD Secondary Business Conditional Zoning District in order to allow the existing church to use the undeveloped parcels as parking lots. These lots were previously zoned R15, and this was approved by City Council on March 5th of 2020. The subject property is the current site of Grace Blue Ridge Church. As mentioned, the applicant is requesting that this parcel be rezoned as a major modification to allow a laundry service use. No additional uses other than what are currently permitted in the existing C2 CZD zoning would be approved in addition to this request. The applicant would like to convert the existing warehouse suite at the rear of the church into a storage facility for uniforms and linens in between operations, serving as the collection center for the business's Hendersonville operations. No actual laundry services will be conducted on site. It will only be used for drop-off and pickup by the company vehicles. The existing parking lot that is on the property will be redesigned and reconfigured for the new use, and if approved, this project would be limited to those stated uses, design, and conditions stated on the site plan. So there was a neighborhood compatibility meeting held. The applicant held the NCM on January 13th of 2026. There was a small turnout, including 4 members of the community in person and 1 person online, 3 members of the applicant team, and 3 city staff members. The discussion was mainly focused on the clarification of the exact use, because the language was included that it was laundry service, and which is listed as dry cleaning, but will be limited to the storage. As well, there was some additional concern about noise and potential truck traffic entering the residential street. So these are some photos that were taken by staff at the site. So the first photo at the upper left-hand corner is kind of facing the structure from the parking lot. If you're thinking about like the end of the Florence Street right-of-way, looking straight at it. The lower photo right below it on the left is kind of that angle showing you the entrance and the loading bay on the side there. So you can see that the grade changes a little bit from the gravel lot to that paved drive that enters into that suite. The upper right-hand photograph is showing behind the structure itself, showing you the kind of undeveloped area that backs up to the city right-of-way that is mainly forested and undisturbed. And then the bottom photo to the right there is just showing you from, like, my back was to that right-of-way, that open space, looking at the parking lot. And then you can see on the edge there, that is the fence that is separating a residential property. I'm going to show you a much larger version of this, so just hang tight. So the applicant has provided a site plan to demonstrate their request. The site plan shows the existing uses as well as vegetation and the proposed uses and site improvements. So this is kind of a larger version there. So this plan does meet the city requirements with respect to the developer proposed conditions, which I'll cover in a moment. There is an existing access easement and sewer easement on the subject property that was discovered following the this application submission. So that may impact the applicant's ability to fully comply with the proposed landscaping requirements that they're showing on the site. Should these easements actually impact that, staff can use an alternative compliance during the final site plan review to cover that. So to give you some context, the total footprint of the existing structures is a little bit over 32,000 square feet, with 10,000 square feet being used by Alsco for this use. Florence Street is a city maintained street, but does end, the paved portion does end as indicated here, which is before the existing parking lot begins. So it's right there, that's the edge. The rest of that is that easement that we were discussing, and it is currently graveled as a shared kind of parking and turnaround area for this parking lot, as well as the parking for the business across the street, which is a pallet manufacturing company. The existing vegetation is shown on the plans and includes some foundation and parking lot shrubs near the entrance to the church. All other existing vegetation is existing. So the previous CZD approval dictated that the church was approved for 102 parking spaces to be shared across all uses on site. And so this laundry service establishment would be required 1 space per 2 employees per shift, which ends up being plenty to be covered by the existing use. So there were some developer proposed conditions. So the
base C2 zoning district allows dry cleaning and laundry establishments under 6,000 square feet. So the applicant is requesting to expand that use to 10,000 square feet, though it will be limited to the storage of linens collected and that no on-site dry cleaning or laundry will occur. They would also like to waive the vehicle use area planting strip along that northernmost property line that backs up to the city right-of-way, since that area is containing mature trees and vegetation. And then there was only one city proposed condition, and this was because of the excess amount of gravel on the site. We were requesting that they remove those gravel from the landscape areas to maximize that success and to make sure that they're properly, taken care of and not just planted within the gravel. And the applicant has agreed to this condition and included that language on their site plan. And to get into comprehensive plan consistency, so this map is showing you the future land use. So the Gen H comp plan designates the property as multi-generational living. This area northeast of the subject property and railroad are classified as mixed-use employment with some neighborhood center off of Keith Street. The adjacent properties surrounding Florence Street and Brooklyn Avenue are either multi-generational living or family and neighborhood living. The character description describes it as mixed residential development with a limited amount of small-scale neighborhood serving commercial with a more variety of homes. As per this definition, a storage use is not an appropriate use for this classification. So we'd have to amend that in order to approve this. As per our general rezoning standards, the key determining factors listed on this slide relate to the comprehensive plan consistency, including land supply, suitability and intensity, and future land use and conservation. The subject property is located between two intensity nodes and near the Spartanburg Highway focus area. So as according to the zoning crosswalk, the proposed zoning district is not consistent with the current character area designation and would need to be changed to innovation in order to meet the crosswalk designation. So this above map is showing the current land use and existing zoning. As you can see, the subject property is currently zoned C2 CZD, which is what the applicant is requesting, and it is used as Grace Blue Ridge Church for their associated use and parking. The property is mostly surrounded by residential uses, including a duplex that does split the property as shown here on the map, and splits the parking lots. Land to the east is mainly commercial with heavier uses such as warehousing and automobile sales centers near Spartanburg Highway, which is that orange color. So there is an existing pallet manufacturing business within the R15 zoning district across the street that does share that gravel drive, but the common zoning districts here are C3, R15, and an undeveloped PRD CZD. So that existing C2 CZD was approved under application H19-38-CZD, and it allowed the following uses: religious institutions, offices, including business, professional, and public, as well as parking lots and parking garages. So as per our general rezoning standards, the key determining factors listed on this slide relate to, relate to compatibility with existing conditions, Gen H goals, and Gen H guiding principles. So staff found that the proposed rezoning was compatible with the existing conditions of the area and could align with the goals and guiding principles of the Gen H comp plan as it relates to providing a mix of uses at key nodes. So the decision was based on the following standards and determinations, including the change conditions that the subject property is currently tied up in that C2 CZD and is limited to those approved uses. So to proceed with the intended use, the property will need to be rezoned to accommodate this major modification. And so in terms of the public interest, it would, this suite has been vacant since the initial CZD was approved, so this would occupy that unit within the building, offering city residents employment opportunities. And just for public facilities, there will be no additional, public facilities needed. That road is maintained by the city of Hendersonville, where it's paved. And there will be no impacts on the existing vegetation. And there are no additional impervious surfaces proposed. So this was the planning board's comprehensive plan consistency. They did see that it was inconsistent, so they would have to redesignate that. And then they did have an approval reasonableness statement, so they did vote to approve this project. And this is just a draft for if you choose to deny. And I can answer any questions.
Any questions? I don't know if the proposer would like to make any comments. You don't have to, but if you'd like to, you may.
Okay. I just want to make sure you knew if I was available for.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, has this public hearing been advertised in accordance with general statutes?
Yes, Madam Mayor, it has.
Okay, we will open that public hearing. No one has signed up here to speak. Is anyone online wishing to speak?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, last chance, anyone? Not, we'll close that public hearing. Okay. Discussion or a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move City Council to adopt an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Hendersonville, changing the zoning designation of the subject property, Pins 9578-21-5868, 9578-21-4924, 9578-214699, 9578-215614 from C-2 CZD Secondary Business Conditional Zoning District to C-2 CZD Secondary Business Conditional Zoning District for the use of an existing structure as a dry cleaning and laundry establishment limited to storage only based on the site plan and list of conditions submitted by and agreed to by the applicant dated February 20, 2026, and presented this meeting subject to the following. The development shall be consistent with the site plan, including the list of applicable conditions contained therein and the following permitted use: religious institutions, office, business, professional, and public, parking lots and parking garage, dry cleaning and laundry establishment, limited storage. Permitted uses and applicable conditions presented on the site plan should be amended to include applicant to remove the gravel from the proposed landscape area to maximize success of the new vegetation. The petitions to found to be inconsistent with the City of Hendersonville Gen H comprehensive plan based on the information from the staff analysis and the public hearing, because the position for C-2 CZD zoning is inconsistent with future land use and conservation map designation of multi-generational living. We find this petition to be reasonable and in the public interest based on the information from the staff analysis, public hearing, and because the proposed zoning is compatible with the surrounding residential and non-residential uses. The proposed zoning allows for secondary businesses use, including this proposed laundry service limited to storage use. Furthermore, we propose to amend the character area of the subject property on the GNH Comprehensive Plan, future land use, and conservation map to that of innovation.
Thank you.
I need oxygen now.
Is there any discussion? If not, those in favor of the rezoning for a conditional zoning district, 109 Florence Street, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carried, and that has been approved. Thank you. New business. Got an proposal for Oakdale Cemetery, Buffalo Soldier Historic Marker. Mr. Hayes.
Yes, so this is being brought to you all from the Historic Preservation Commission. I just checked, this project started in 2022, so it's been several years in the making, but we're kind of hopefully to the finish line. The Historic Preservation Commission was approached by a group of local historians to erect a historic marker to honor Walter Bryson, the only known Buffalo Soldier in Henderson County. You may ask, what is a Buffalo Soldier? This was a group established in 1866. The Buffalo Soldier name was given to the all-black regiments of the Army by Native Americans. The name was coined because of their, quote, dark curly hair, which resembled a buffalo's coat, and because of their fierce nature of fighting. The Buffalo Soldiers served on the western frontier and fought in the Spanish-American War, the Philippine-American War, and the campaign against Pancho Villa in Mexico. And they are considered to be the first national park rangers. I think before the National Park Service was established, they patrolled the lands that eventually became our national parks. And then they also served as riding instructors for West Point cadets. They were known for their exemplary riding skills. And then they officially were disbanded in 1951 following President Truman's 1948 order to desegregate the military. So Walter Bryson was born in Henderson County in 1876, and he is the only known Buffalo Soldier in the county. And so this group of local historians wanted to honor him. He's buried in Oakdale Cemetery. Some information about his life: he enlisted in the 9th Cavalry in 1900. He served in the American West at the close of the Indian Wars. He received a medal for service from his time in the Philippines. He served as a riding instructor at West Point, and which required him to relinquish his sergeant status or his sergeant rank because at the time black soldiers could not outrank white cadets. And Bryson died in 1917 while on furlough in Hendersonville, and like I mentioned, he's buried in Oakdale Cemetery. That's his headstone. Ultimately, the Historic Preservation Commission is seeking approval to place a historic marker. I will note that the Historic Preservation Commission has allocated the funds out of their annual budget to purchase the historic marker, and it will look similar to the one that's on the right-hand side of your screen, or the bronze historic markers that you see around Hendersonville today. This is the marker text. I'm not going to read through it, but basically one side will describe what a Buffalo Soldier is, and then the other side will be a brief overview of Bryson's life. And I will say part of the reason why it took 4 years was because it is not easy to write a history of someone's life in 640-something odd characters. So it took a long time to figure that out, but staff worked with these local historians. Jenny Giles is one of them, prominent Henderson County historian. So it's been thoroughly vetted. All of the facts are correct. And it took a long time to figure out what, was important enough to include on this historic marker. For the placement of the marker, staff has worked with Public Works to find an appropriate location. So as you can see, you've got Prince Street going right here, and then you've got 64 or 6th Avenue right here. Bryson's headstone is about right here, and so we think on the corner here, out of the right-of-way. It won't obstruct anyone trying to turn onto 6th Avenue. So that's the general location for the historic marker. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Mr. Hayes, I heard a rumor that there may be another Buffalo Soldier at Oakdale Cemetery. So if that is to be true, will we take the same consideration for?
We certainly can. And we're being careful. We're not saying anything in the marker text that this is the only one because, history, we're always learning more about our history. So we don't want to say anything that, and put it into bronze that may be inaccurate. So, but we can certainly look into that. I have also heard that rumor. And so, and I think the historians who we're working with are, I think, actively looking into getting some more information on that.
So, as a Buffalo City Councilwoman, I move.
One quick comment, if you, Councilmember Lawrence. I appreciate Sam putting this on new business. He wanted to bury it under consent, and I wouldn't let him because I think this is great. I think this is great information, but also just to go on record that, it's a public cemetery under the control of the city council, and I think it's important that any monuments that are going to be installed in, other than the private monuments on the specific plots, be approved by the city council, because I think we need to make sure we protect the sanctity of the cemetery, and the city council should have a say. So that's the reason I did this, and just want to go on the record for saying that for prosperity's sake. So, council member, I'm done.
Thank you, city manager. I move city council adopt the recommended location placement for historic marker honoring Walter Bryson, Buffalo Soldier.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Those in favor of the adoption of the historic marker, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. And that will be done. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yeah.
I have a question. Don't know if this is the appropriate time, but we've done this before when we've had a LIHTC project come to council, and I was just wondering if everybody would support writing another letter of resolution to the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency in support of the project. Their chairperson told me he doesn't think it hurts for us to send a letter asking for consideration for that LIHTC project, and if it doesn't hurt, and maybe it helps a little bit, it'd be great, just because of the scoring models that they use put us at a bit of a disadvantage. So I was wondering if we could do that.
I think we have for the others that have been proposed.
Excellent.
There's no objection?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, board and commission appointments. Who wants to cover
Here,
this?
I don't see Caitlin here, so Mayor Volt, members of the City Council, we have an application for a student appointment of the Environmental Sustainability Board. It's Ms. Hannah Price as a member of the ESB, and there are some proposed changes to the bylaws that are included in your packet, I believe. So staff would recommend that we appoint Hannah and make those changes, please.
Any discussion? Or a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move that City Council appoint Hannah Price as a member of the Environmental Sustainability Board as a student member and adopt the changes to the Environmental Sustainability Board's bylaws. Her term will expire March 2027.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion? Not. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. We have appointed Hannah Price and adopted changes to the bylaws. Thank you. City manager report.
Mayor Volt, members of the City Council, 3 quick announcements. First, for anyone interested in the public hearing for Project VERT, we will momentarily be recessing and heading to City Hall. So just putting folks on notice who may be listening online that we will not have Zoom available there, and if you want to comment for Project VERT, we'll be heading to City Hall, so momentarily. Secondly, our contingency report, adjustment report is in your agenda packet for your review and consideration. I'm glad to answer any questions you may have there. And finally, Mayor's Memories, April 4th.
Wait. Just for the community's sake, can we say why we are moving to a different location for this public hearing?
Because your city attorney made an error in the notice. I used a form that had City Hall as the location, and we didn't discover it until 2 days ago. Bill Moss pointed it out, and I wasn't happy with myself, so I apologize, and I appreciate your consideration. And Brittany Brady appreciates your consideration too, so thank you.
I just want to make sure that the community knows that by law, we are required to host a public hearing in the place that it was advertised, and we are not trying to move because of whatever secret shenanigans somebody might say we're up to.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yes. We are meeting the letter of the law. Mayor's Memories. So April 2002, 1 meeting was not good enough. 2 meetings was not good enough. 3 meetings was not good enough. 4 meetings in the month of April of 2002 was held, and the mayor was there. at every one of them. So a lot happened during the month of April, a number of annexations and different things. But we applied for a block grant to run infrastructure to what is known as the Village at King Creek. Lots of input regarding changing the names of streets, particularly lots of conversation at that particular meeting regarding renaming a portion of Four Seasons Boulevard for Martin Luther King. It was happening in 2002. A discussion about the first section of the Greenway, of Oklawaha Greenway. Mr. John Antrim, I guess, from the Greenways Commission had an update there at that April meeting. Mentioned renaming Four Seasons for Dr. Martin Luther King for that segment. Let's see, what else happened that month? Letters to the General Assembly. We had a local act about unsafe buildings. Ribbon cutting occurred in the month, well, was advertised for the new wastewater plant, occurred on May 7th, so that was outside of that month. They talked about ongoing discussion of pets within the MSD and during special events. Here we are 24 years later, we're still talking about that. Sidewalk amenities on Main Street, really talking about sidewalk dining. SDC charges, Brent, all the way back in 2002. Formation of the South Side Redevelopment Committee was established. There was a plan that came out of that, and a lot of that work has been done. The second meeting was on April 9th. It was a public meeting at the Whitmire Building for an annexation, including the area around Carolina Village at that time. They had another meeting on April 16th at the cafeteria at Hendersonville Middle School regarding annexation and hear from the neighborhood and the public. The third meeting, I believe, was, or maybe that's the fourth meeting, is April 22nd, personnel study. The most critical thing that happened there, besides the annexation plan and adoption, is, and this is key, the city council agreed, and Mary Jo Pageant, I think, is listening, and she made the motion, to enter into a contract with the North Carolina Wetlands Restoration Program to buy the property that Mike Huffman is now redeveloping or turning into a wetlands or flood storage area, and you'll be known as the Brevard Church site and the Ken Wilson property, which is the property beside Public. So back in April of 2002, that property was agreed to be purchased by the city of Hendersonville, which is now Mike's project. So just wanted to point those things out in mayor's memories, and we're up to April, so we'll keep going.
Okay, thank you. Anything council wants to bring up during council comments? No? Right, then we will recess and reconvene at City Hall as soon as we can all get there. Probably about 10, 15 minutes.